story on my website off of your website any day I want. What are you gonna do about it? Huh? What do you think you're gonna do about it? You're not gonna do nothing! Nothing! I'll come to New York, I'll come up to your offices with a flamethrower!
This guy's just like Chris Rousseau.
Dude! It just got quiet.
There we go.
Oh, Brian, you're on. Hey, what's up?
No, I'm not on.
Oh, you're not on.
No, I'm not here.
Oh, someone else then.
I'm a figment of your imagination, and let me tell you, you have one hell of a sexy imagination.
What's going on?
Alright, guys. Well, we're just running kind of a improv radio show here. I know it's been a little while, and we're kind of trying to get a lot of the GMs that kind of fell off, including myself, really, back into the swing of things as winter meetings approach, and we're in the middle of arbitration right now. And we have a new guest on. He literally just joined today, Bryan, the GM of the Reds. I guess you want to kind of introduce yourself, Bryan, and give us a little background on your OOTP experience. And
well, my name is Bryan Scott. I'm a lifelong baseball fan, born and raised an Orioles fan. I'm originally from Maryland and live in Delaware now, and have for some time. My OOTP experience is really not that long. I didn't discover the game until this past year. I am the type of guy who likes to really dig into things before I put myself out there. So, you know, I've been playing for a couple of months. I work out of my home, so I have a lot of time. So I have burned through a lot of sims in the last like 4 or 5 months, just really acquainting myself with everything that was possible and how the game worked, and you know, all the tools that I would have at my disposal. I love the game of baseball. I love numbers. When I was about 7 years old, I wrote a letter and addressed it to was Memorial Stadium at the time, to the head statistician, because I wanted to learn how to become a statistician so I could work for a major league team. That didn't really pan out, but you know, that's, you know, I've always had that love. So this is just right up my alley. I'm extremely excited to be here, which you can tell by my wonderfully modulating voice. Like I said, I'm very excited to be here. Excited to be taking over the Reds. I mean, come on, I walk in the door and you hand me a team that had 95 wins last year. I mean, where's the challenge, man? You know, but it's interesting because, you know, I'm on the East Coast, so a lot of things here are very, and because of my upbringing, are very American League based. And Cincinnati's not a team I'm real familiar with. Yeah, I mean, history-wise, of course, you know, but it's not like I get to see them on TV a lot and that type of thing. So it's going to be interesting. It's also a market I'm not familiar with, and you know, I'm big on markets and how you use them within your strategy. So
yeah, you sound like a guy who loves a challenge and really like to take on a project, and I do truly apologize for jumping the gun and kind of pitting you in with the Cubs and then we kind of had to reverse that, but I'm glad that you're up for it and you can adapt on the fly, so thank you.
Oh, it's no problem. You know, adapt and overcome, as they say. I'm a person that, one of my many mantras, and I have many, is, you know, I always say, my plan is not flexible, flexibility is my plan. So you walk into a situation, you never know what you're going to get. So it's going to be interesting. It's always interesting. And I'm a long-term guy, so, you know, I don't care if I well, like I said, I'm walking into a team that had 95 wins last year, so, you know, it should be about maintaining. But if I had walked into a team that had finished dead last in the basement, I've got no unrealistic expectations that I'm going to turn a team around and, you know, in a year. I'm a long-term planner, so I don't want to. I'm not a win now mentality. I build an empire. That's my goal. I want a dynasty, and I'll take the time to build one.
I think you'll find that I've been in this league since February. that there's a lot of great personalities and individuals, and some of these it's interesting to see because I would say middle of the way through the free agency of last year, and then obviously through the whole trades, just to see kind of some of where these smaller market teams have gone, and it's definitely doable. Like the Marlins and Jess at the. I mean, you don't know any of the guys yet, but if you hang around long enough, you'll get to know them. With the White Sox, and it's just the Mariners did well this year. It's just cool to see that it is possible even if you don't have a lot of money. I mean, I have a ton of money. I only won 82 games. Charles is another one where Richie and I and a lot of the people in the leagues thought he was going to do really well, and he won 79 games. So it's up to anybody. I mean, like you said, took a team that had 95 wins last year. But as a finance guy, I look at it as past performance doesn't mean future returns. So you got to keep building off of that. So
ask the Red Sox this year. How that worked out, win a World Series, come back and finish in the basement.
But the thing with the Red Sox now is I mean, this is an OTP, but they know what they're doing. They're set up for another winning year, I think.
Well, it's funny that I have respect for the Red Sox organization. Even though of course as an Orioles fan they are a major rival, but I also at the same time look at it and I go, it must be nice to have that money though. Like that's a big market, and it's nice to have that money to play with, so you can turn things. Now they do it very smart as well, but you look at some place like Tampa Bay, not necessarily right now, but over say the past decade, having that kind of budget and being able to do what they did was amazing. Just that's a model right there. You can learn from that.
All right, let's switch gears and let's get Richie. Do you have any, as co-commish? Do you have any comments or things you want to say about overall, whether just past couple months or future, just anything you want to get out there?
Well, before we jump into that, let's kind of to that plan that or the vision that Brian just brought up. Let's just kind of preface the whole concept of a one-day league to him, because I don't know what your history of the offline sims that you've been running or what those are, but I'm sure you don't play a full-on 162 game season day by day. So I mean, it's a pretty new experience for all of us. I do admit that, but what kind of sims you run offline, just so we can get an idea of?
I've done several different things. I mean, I've run sims where I pretty much let the manager do his thing, and I just GM'd. I did this probably my first two, just because I wanted to focus on, again, as I said, the tools that were available to me, learning where the menus were and what I could do and how I could customize what I was looking at. So in that respect, that one, of course, it was much easier for me to sim larger chunks of time because I wasn't focused on the day-to-day. I love actually managing the games. I've done that as well, where I've gone, much more focused. Using the 7-day lineups and setting things up the way I wanted them ahead of time, and then you can only do day-to-day for so long, really, if you want to progress anywhere.
Yeah, I think one of the best points or the best benefits of having a day-to-day league like this is it caters to guys who like to tinker. If you like to play around with your roster or play around with how you construct your team, you can kind of see the day-to-day results and see how it unfolds over a season, instead of just letting things fly under the AI management. So
my very first online league, I jumped into a one-day. I know a lot of people, I've said this before, but I haven't said this to Brian. I jumped into a one-day league, and it almost, I didn't really completely appreciate, I guess is the best way to put it. Then I dropped out of that one-day league and then joined a 7-day league where they do 7 days every 2 or 3 days of the week. So you're constantly, you got to stay up on it. After that, I got bored, and then I found this league. And then you kind of just finally, appreciate like how much, time I mean, it takes quite a bit of time, but at the same time, you also have a lot of patience. So yeah, I agree completely. So I guess back to my original question, Richie. Is there anything that, like whether the real players? I don't know if you have anything on there. If you talk to Ryan, international free agents or the draft, whatever.
Right. So just to fill Brian in and what some of the discussions we've had. As far as the draft, this past year or the 2014 season, we did have an amateur draft, but the initial plan was to, instead of having fake players in the player pool, was to implement real life amateur college players or rookies into the draft. But that kind of fell by the wayside. So we're gonna be hitting 2015 hard with that vision in mind and prepare for the 2015 draft with maybe 2 or 3 rounds full of real life players, so that there's a little bit of a human connection to some of the names you might see. So that was one of the more requested features. So we're going to be working on that. And one more thing that I was talking with Ryan, the Rays GM, earlier was due to kind of the lack of, or the staleness of the free agency class this year. And I'm sure, Brian, you're going to check this out for yourself, but due to that, we're thinking of adding maybe 3, 4, 5, or however many international free agents, guys like these Cuban guys coming up, like Rusney Castillo or Yasmani Tomas, the guy who signed with the D-backs this year. So just to kind of inject some excitement or anticipation into the free agency this year, so you can be looking forward to that in the upcoming days, I guess.
How much? I don't know. I'm completely clueless because I think it's important and I'm like lobbying for it, but I literally have no idea how to do it or how much time it takes. Does it take quite a bit of time? Like, how do you get these ratings, and how do you?
Well, the idea is that these guys that we plan to implement are already in the game. If you search up Rusney Castillo on a 2014 quick start, you can start up a league right now, you're going to find him in the game. So we're going to write down or export those ratings out to a file and then re-import it within our league. So we're not just going to make up ratings on the fly. It's going to be ratings and stats that are already generated by the game.
Are we bringing in Abreu from?
He's under consideration as well because he's not in our universe yet. So yeah, and that's Jose Abreu of the White Sox.
So then would we have to? We would just take 2014's quick start version of him and then put him in our league. Is that we get his ratings off? Okay, I see.
That would be the quick way. Yeah.
All right. I don't know.
Yeah, free agency is quickly approaching, so we want to kind of rush you along here, Brian. So if you don't mind.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good.
So what are some of the positions that are possibly? I saw Ryan said 22 of 30. So is it looking like we're gonna have to quickly fill some of these GM spots possibly?
Well, as of this morning, we had the Cubs and the Reds, and like I said, I jumped the gun on that. But we do, as of this moment, we have both of them filled out now. So
I know the Yankees. I don't even know who the new Yankees guy is, honestly, and he wasn't on there.
But he's a Yankees guy, so everyone should hate him.
It's funny because my buddy used to be the Yankees GM. He ended up quitting.
Down with the evil empire.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but the expectation is to have all 30 teams up and alive and active by or in this off season. So I don't think we shouldn't have to worry about that.
I guess my main thing is I'd kind of like to keep it OTP because
that's fair enough.
We could go on.
Wait, is Lester a free agent in our file?
He is. Yes, he's possibly.
Kind of relates.
Yeah, we could in real life or OTP. it kind of works out. Headley is, I guess, one of the top free agents. Russell Martin. I can speak on my behalf. Hanley didn't want to sign, so he's going to be out there.
Why not? He just didn't like the Dodgers, or?
Yeah, he didn't even want me to throw him any offer whatsoever. Said, you know what, I'm testing free agency. So you know what, I didn't want his defense anyways because our defensive efficiency was awful this year. We're gonna, kind of like in real life, we're gonna lose his offensive production. I mean, he hit 24 home runs, just under 100 RBIs, and a decent, 285 average. But his defense at shortstop is awful. So I'm not too worried about that. Also, Chad Billingsley, I didn't pick up his arbitration year or option year, I should say. It was $14 million, and I didn't. I think that's way too much for a guy of his caliber. If it was 9 or 10 million, different story. But it's looking like he's a mean free agent, or he is going to be for sure.
Yeah, looking in game right now, the free agent class after Lester, the starting pitchers after him are Roy Halladay, Jake Peavy, Jorge De La Rosa, and Sean Markham are the top 5 guys. So you can kind of understand why I said this free agent class is kind of lacking.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, looking at the top of the list isn't always the most important thing to do. Particularly, I'm walking into a situation where I've got to try and maintain the success that the team was already having.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean that I need to make a big splash free agent signing. Now, if one is there that I think is beneficial and fits financially, then that's great. But if it's not, signing near the middle to the bottom of the list sometimes can be just as important. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today about, and he's not a big baseball fan, so I was really trying to explain certain things, and we were talking about, the change that occurred in baseball over the last, 2 decades or so. The idea of the old school mentality of focusing on batting average versus a new school mentality that will focus more on an on-base percentage,
right.
Things like this. And I talked about, would you rather have a guy who hits 290, with a 310 on-base percentage who hit 30 home runs, or would you rather have 2 guys, one who hits, 310 versus lefty, one who hits 308 versus righties, and they hit 15 home runs between them, and they both have an on-base percentage around 330.
You want to guess what your future first baseman Joey Votto's on-base percentage was this year?
I have no idea.
You're going to be very happy in having him. It's a 401 on-base percentage.
Outstanding.
But I mean, I want to kind of. That's funny that you brought that up, and I'm just going to use this real life example. Friedman is the current GM of the Dodgers, which was obviously Tampa Bay's GM, and there was just a report out today that that D. Gordon he's throwing his name out there, and I want to bring this up because of what you just said, and his main thing is OBP. Yes, D. Gordon, his average was good. I want to say it was 300, 301 or something like that, or just under 300. And he had the most stolen bases, but his on-base percentage was awful. So that just kind of, exactly your point, where the old adage of average, batting average, but, on-base percentage can just be as crucial. So
I would say on-base percentage is much more crucial because I don't care how you got there. I really don't. Now, I mean, on-base plus slugging is going to be even more crucial because it not only tells me how often you got on base, but how far you got when you got on. I don't care if you hit a single or if you walked. You still got on base. You're still on first. If you're hitting to a certain average and you're not getting on base beyond that, then I don't care if another guy hit to a less average but got on base more often than you did. I'm going to take that guy that got on base more often because you can't score if you're not on. He's generating more scoring opportunities than you are. Now again, that's simplifying it much more than it really is, because like I said, you have to take it. If you're hitting a lot of doubles, then of course you're in scoring position. That type of thing.
Yeah.
You have to count the slugging in as well. But just from a very simple standpoint, yeah, I'm always going to go with on-base percentage as one of the things I noticed, and I was going to bring this up just in the forums today, because I am still fairly new to the game, so I have questions and stuff now and again, so I'm going to bring this up right here. I cannot find anywhere in all these stat lists, where is batting average with runners in scoring position?
BABIP? Or, oh no.
No, BABIP would be batting average on balls in play. Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah, let's find that.
I've always liked runners in scoring. It's not a very definitive stat, but to me, since you can't physically watch guys play,
right. Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives you at least a little bit of kind of a clutch thing.
If you go to batting stats and under 2014 batting splits, there's a category that says scoring position. Is that what I think that's what you'd be looking for.
Let me take a look at that.
Oh yeah, you scroll down.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got his average, the hits. Like I'm looking just at Chase Headley because we were in the free agent section, and he batted, 360 with the 429 OBP with runners in scoring position. So
okay, I was looking for it in a sortable list form.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Now the fact that it's there for individual hitters is great. Just knowing it's there is good. That makes me happy.
Yeah, just going to the individual player, his batting stats, and then their batting splits, and then it's pretty detailed. I mean, it's all the way down to 0-1 counts and 2-0 counts and all that. So I don't have anything else. You guys are just waiting.
We're going to have to work on your interview skills.
I already have a job. I just got a job. I graduate this Saturday. I just got a job like 3 weeks ago. I interviewed last Friday. Another interview, I should say.
So tell us your strengths and weaknesses.
I think I actually do pretty well in interviews. I think so, anyways. I mean, yeah, I'm comfortable with them. I'm professional, which is obviously huge. Much more professional than on this kind of a setting, obviously.
Well, here, I'll just start interviewing you. What do you?
This is great.
Talking about your strengths and weaknesses, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a GM?
From your own perspective. I like it. So you are tying. All right. I would say it's interesting because Boston's GM and I just kind of had this conversation, and I don't know if this is might be kind of between strength and a weakness. I'm not sure, but when it comes to trading, I'm extremely tough when it comes to trading. Like anybody that's dealt with me, I've only done. What's that?
You're saying you're conservative, or you're just?
I'm conservative, but I don't know. It's kind of I've only done one trade, and I've been in a ton of trade talks, but nothing's ever come out of it. I don't know. And his comment was, and I completely agree with it, is sometimes not making that trade is a good thing. So I don't know. That's not really a strength or a weakness, but I don't know. I guess.
Well, as with most things.
Being in a league like this, wouldn't you agree that talking out a trade through chat or whatever, or just through here, it's much more better than conversing through emails or?
I don't mind both, actually. I don't mind both. I'll do email, I'll do chat, whatever. I know people prefer specific things, but if someone can email quick, I'm completely fine with email. And I was talking with the Bo Sox today through email on a possible trade. Nothing came out of it, of course. But I don't mind either or, really.
The funny thing to me is that one of the things I believe I will find a great experience here is that it's not a menu. You know what I mean? I have
Right.
you to talk to, and whether that's in emails, whether that's here on chat, whether you're texting my cell phone, it will mimic, if you will, what we would see in real life. You'll develop
Right.
relationships with certain clubs because the two GMs get along well. You'll, or because the organizations work well, and as far as trading back and forth is concerned. and meeting each other's needs. You'll have guys that you probably won't be able to trade with that much because your views and things are different, and it's not going to match up. It's not going to work. They're either going to want too much or you want too much according to them, or so there's actual personalities involved.
Right.
And it means that I can sit down with you and we can be talking about a trade. The rapport between the two of us and the way we talk and the way we go about it, I might be able to execute a trade with you that someone else sitting in the same position would not be able to do. Or I might not be able to execute a trade with you that someone else may have been able to get based on just the relationship.
Based on the human element, right?
Yeah, that just talking it out. Part of it being a GM or at least I would suppose. I've never been one in real life, but I would think is being a bit of a salesman. I mean, there's charisma and there's not quite used car salesman.
Yeah.
Looking nasty, but sometimes.
While you were talking, I was just thinking about this. I guess a strength that I would have would be, I get the most. My payroll is the biggest, in the league. Well, actually, my player payroll is only fourth now. It went down, but my budget is first. I would say that I kind of almost I bring the. I'm not going to say this current GM, but the Ned Colletti approach, which would be opposite of the Yankee approach, is system, but not automatically when there's a big guy on the block, which this past year there was that. I didn't just ship out. I currently have, the sixth best farm system with the most amount of money. So I kind of like to, still maintain my farm system. And I've already been approached with, I've got Nicolino, which was an awesome trade that the Marlins GM even admitted to was I won on that trade where I got a top prospect for that. I got another Julio Urias, Corey Seager, all those guys just sitting down there, and I'm not just shipping them out. So I guess that'd be I guess you could say that's a strength where I'm not unloading my farm for 30-year-old, 34-year-old.
Excuse me. Well, that kind of puts you in that position I was talking about with earlier in the chat when I was talking about Chicago. Of having that built-up farm system, but also having, a good budget to work with. You can really turn that into almost like a self-fueling system. And this is what I was talking about experimenting with, was taking like a big market team and really focusing early on building up a really great farm system. And then you take that farm system, and as those guys are coming up and you have financial control of them, your payroll's pretty cheap. You may have to bring in bits and pieces, but you can keep your payroll pretty cheap. And if you don't get greedy and ahead of yourself and just let that develop, once you get into that 6th year of control, that 5th year of control, you can start dealing those guys out to refuel that farm system. And then you can start, as you get close to being able to really contend and win, you start spending that money that you have sitting there because you have such a small budget with these controlled players. And you spend that money on free agents that are going to bring you wins, and as their contracts are up, you deal them out for more prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the ideal way of doing it.
Ideally, you would want to see that unfolding, right? But I don't think anyone sitting here can say where they're going to be 5 or 6 years down the road. I don't want to dampen your mood, but keep in mind that we are a one game a day league, and
no.
Some guys do have that mentality in mind when they do first year in the league, but as they find out through the grind of the season or whatever, their game plan kind of changes in accordance to how they're experienced.
It's tough, man. Like, you'll experience it this coming year, Brian. But as much as I don't want to say it, but I changed from a seller to a buyer to a seller to a buyer. It's difficult because you're seeing your team fall apart, especially with all the big name guys I have, and I'm losing ground. And then all of a sudden I get on a 9-1 in the last 10 games, and I'm approaching in on first place. I'm like 3 games behind. A month left to trade deadline. Well, now I'm a buyer. Maybe I can make a push. And then I lose 5-6 in a row, and I'm dropping. It's it's difficult, and you'll experience that. With one day, it really gets at you. Like one day you'll be a seller, the next day you'll be a buyer. It's kind of interesting how that works. It's hard to kind of move those and push those emotions out of the way.
Well, my experience there, or what I believe will help, has been actually my fantasy baseball experience. My last fantasy season, my draft, my top 5 were complete busts. My top 5 draft picks were absolute busts. You know, started the season, I was dead last in the league. It looked ugly, but I'm a patient guy. I know it's a long season. There's a lot I can do. I started working on some trades. I am a scourer. I will pore over statistics for a long, long period of time. So, you know, in fantasy, I was scouring, you know, everything that was on the waiver wire, I was on it. You know, all the guys that were sitting out there, all the free agents that were sitting out there, I was on them. And I'd ride hot streaks. And I ended up finishing third, which.
Where do you play fantasy at? Yahoo or ESPN?
Yahoo last year.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I'll definitely be playing a couple leagues this year. Last year I only did 2. I did a points league and a head-to-head points league and a head-to-head standard.
Yeah, fantasy was kind of my thing too before finding out about OOTP, but now that OOTP is here, it's kind of taken a
backseat.
Most of my time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the differences are there, so I can understand. Yeah.
And fantasy doesn't necessarily take a lot of time.
Right.
You know, you can kind of put as much time or as little as you want in it, and that's kind of why I'm glad to be here, because I always found myself going. You know, I'd log into my fantasy team and I'm there for a half hour, an hour, and then I'm like, what do I do now? I've got nothing else to do. I've explored every possibility that's there. Nothing's going to change in the next hour. I don't have to log in until tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, this for me is I'm extremely excited, as I said. So I can't wait to get going here.
Yeah, and I think that's what, as a league, that's what we try to offer too. Aside from just the game, we know everyone can export. We know everyone can do that. We know everyone can manage their little in-game teams. But what we really want everyone to benefit from is what you were talking about before, is the human element to the game that you literally cannot experience from any offline thing that you do by playing by yourself. And some guys, as you may be surprised, but some guys just don't get that, even though they're in our league right now. They're just they appreciate that, but they cherish that the moments where they play by themselves, and they don't really yearn for that human interaction or the engagement that you're excited for. And I'm really glad that you're looking forward to it, and that's what we really want to look for in the GM.
Here's the thing: is I guess because I did it. It's a lot of teams obviously were hoping to make the playoffs, didn't make the playoffs, and there was a month of playoffs and then the World Series or whatever, and it just kind of got stale. But if this part of the year, like right now, if this doesn't get GM coming back for more, then nothing will, because this is what this game is designed for. It's dealing, the GM part, arbitration, free agents, constructing your whole roster, your rotation, your bullpen, seeing where your weaknesses were. If your starting rotation was bad, you're looking to try to make a trade, or there's a free agent you have there's guys already I'm looking at, and if this isn't, if right now is not, if you're not coming back, then it's not going to work, period. And I would think you both would agree.
Well, that's exactly what I said earlier about, I'm not, I'm looking at the top free agents, and I'm looking to see what's there. But I'm just as excited at the bottom of the free agent list. Like, what can I use there? What can I get that's going to be, complimentary to my team? And at the end of the year, I'm going to go, that was a great pickup. That right there, that's what did it. Because to me, that's where it is. It's in the depth that you build. It's in the role players. It's in that's where you make or break, because that one superstar that you sign can go down in spring training and miss the rest of the year. You have no idea. This is the part that yeah, as you said, you get excited for. There's one of my favorite quotes from Buck Showalter this past year. I heard him say a number of times. At the end of October, only one team gets to go home happy. Everybody else is home planning for next year. You're lucky if you get to go to the playoffs and roll the dice, but just one team gets to win, and everybody else has to figure out what they were missing.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's the thing, figuring out, you know, what that piece is, where those pieces are, and I'm sure you guys have had the same experience that I've had, where you're sitting, you know, watching the GM of your favorite team or whatever, and he's talking about, you know, about this time of year where he's talking about what they're looking for and the pieces that they're trying to get. Not always, of course, but you probably had that moment where you go, that's not what I would do. No, that's not what we need. We need this. And this is our opportunity to go, well, okay, big guy, you know so much, step up and do it. You know, one of the first sims I did, offline sims I did, was doing a historical league, and I took over the 98 Orioles. And I named the league what I would have done. You know, because after the 97 season, you know, we were supposed to go all the way and got, you know, went to the playoffs and lost in the championship game. And then that began the run of no playoffs, no divisions, you know what I mean, till 2012. So I was like, what would I have done differently than what they did? How would I have steered the ship and avoided, you know, 15, 20 years of losing seasons? And to me, that's the great thing about this game, is that I can step in there and go, can I do any better? You know,
Absolutely.
and I have that opportunity. And when I do it, you know, you're not going to hear me stop talking about it. I'm going to tell you about it all day.
I think we're going to wrap this up. It was great. This was extremely improv. Brian kind of actually got it going because I mentioned it in chat, and he's like, great, let's do it. And then I messaged Richie. I'm like, Richie, let's do it right now. So,
well, you will quickly find that I love to talk. So
I think it's apparent that you're a fit for this league, and
Yep.
probably won't be the last time that we do this, and you'd be on it. So,
anytime.
all right, it was good talking to you, Brian. See you later.
Definitely. Good meeting you guys.
Yep, see you, Richie.
Yeah, Brian. Night.